All right, I am going to start up again. I'm in my living room. I'm not typically in there, and that's why if you hear the clock, I apologize. In the background, uh, I'll tell you what a bad thing to do is to realize at 9:45 that you left your copy of your pretest that you created over at the Wentzville campus. So I just quickly threw something together, and it looks like I just threw something together. But I'm going to go over it anyway. I do want to mention to you before we start, we're going to go through all of it, but before we start, that what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to rewrite what I'm about to show you. And that is a couple years ago when the Blues won the Stanley Cup, I created a site for that. All right, it's not at all fantastic. It looks like this. All right, and there's goods and bads about it. I did certain things, certain sizes for a reason, but I just want to show you. So we've got this. It's got an about page and it's got a bunch of pictures. And if you click on a picture, it will change the one that's there to that picture, etc. And it's got a contact page on it, and it's even got some JavaScript in it. You don't have to worry about what any of this is. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to end up rewriting this site over the weekend. And so it won't be Blues, it'll be something else. But the site also, when you look at it right here, hopefully you can tell, it's responsive. So this is the way that the site would look if we saw it on a phone, for example. And it's not fantastic, but it doesn't look bad either. All right. And if I came back out and then showed what it would look like, for example, maybe on like a tablet, it would look more like this. So this is what we're going to be getting into next week, just so you're aware of that. With all that said, let's go and first just take a look at the pretest itself. All right. I'm going to take very little of this is on your actual test, but I just wanted to show you a few things. All right. Are you going to be asked to make a logo? You're going to be asked to do something related to a logo. I'll just put it that way. This stuff right here is almost taken right from the test. Forget about this. Give this a solid this and that. We can do that, but there's really no reason to. But I want to show you what I did. All right. And how I set all of this up. After we do that, we'll look at how I set all of this up. All right. After we do that, we're not going to do it in exactly this order. We're going to go through the home page. Then we're going to go through the resume page. Then for just a second, I'm going to skip the portfolio and coursework pages and do the contact page. Then we'll come back and we'll do both the portfolio page and the coursework page, and we'll end it up looking through the validation stuff. Okay, so with that said, now some of you continue to talk to me and send me emails saying, hey, I'm having nothing but problems using GitHub. So there's nothing with GitHub on this right now. So let's put something in here. So I've got this thing called Pretest. All right. So we're just going to pretend for a second that this is my folder that's got all my hands-on tests in it. We're just pretending that for right now. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to I'm going to open it up. I'm going to right mouse click on here, and I'm going to choose open Git bash here. And that opens a command type of window right there. All right. Then right now there's nothing Git on this particular application. So I'm going to start to add something by first saying Git init. And when I hit enter, you'll notice there'll be a .git folder that'll appear up on top here. And there it is. So I now have that. Now I want to take everything that's in here and I want to add it to what's going to become my GitHub repo. So I say git add dot. That means add everything. And I'm hitting enter. Now, sometimes when you do that, you'll get feedback. Sometimes you'll just get a prompt like this. How do I know if this worked? What I just did was I told Git to take everything that I have in this particular folder and put it in what's called the staging area, which means that in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to commit it and then push it to GitHub. How do I know there's even something in that staging area? I can type in git status after I do my git add, and it shows me. This is all the stuff that I've got that's ready to be committed. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to commit this by saying git commit -m for a message, and I'm going to say pretest chapters 1 through 7. You could put any message there you want, and I'm going to hit enter. And now it's showing me that same stuff that was in the staging area is now been committed. It is not yet part of a GitHub repository. What I have to do first is I have to go out to GitHub. So I'll go out to github.com. This is my account. I'm going to make a new repository right now because I don't have one, I don't believe, that's called Pretest. Maybe I do. It says it's available. All right. So yours should always be private in here, but mine will be public. So I click the create repository and it gives me a bunch of stuff up here. The only thing I need is this line right here, this second last line, which says what I want to do is I want to associate my local Git stuff with this GitHub repository that exists at https://github.com/jpscottrankin/pretest.git. So I'm going to grab that line, copy it to the clipboard, go back here into GitHub and paste that line in and hit enter. Now, how do I know if it worked? I can type in right now. I can come in here and type in git remote -v, and it shows me. Well, right now, this particular Git that's in here is associated with this GitHub repository. That's the one I want to associate it with. So now I say git push -u origin, and some of you will say main here. I have to say master and hit enter. It'll spin for a couple seconds. It's doing its thing. It's already done. So if I come back up here now and I refresh my page, there is that GitHub repository with everything in it. I don't mean to talk down to anybody in the class, but I don't know any other way to show it to you other than this. All right, I've given you a couple of videos that you can watch, and they may or may not do it exactly the same way that I do. But what I tried to do was I tried to come up with what I consider to be the most straightforward way of you doing this. You may agree with that. You may not agree with that. All right, so let's take a look at what I put in here. So I'm going to bring it up. So here is the home page. I literally did go out to that site I told you about. It's kind of hard to see here, but if I blow it up, you can see it says JP Scott and there's a J right there. All right. So I put that in there. Next to it, I moved from the bottom to the top. I moved up. All right. I moved up my links. All right. And this is what's on the home page. There's a lot of stuff in here that you will not be asked to do on your test. Just take my word for it. As I said before, the test is much easier than this. Now, when I got to where I realized I didn't have a pretest, I cheated. I went out to W3 schools and I put in there for the portfolio and the coursework, hey, I want a 3-column format, and I got it. But something that's in the CSS changed the size of this stuff. So when you go to portfolio, you'll see that it's bigger and coursework as opposed to resume, etc. I'd have to look at what happened there, and I just didn't have time to do it. So this is the home page. All right. Here is a logo that I floated left. Here is the associated navigation area that I also floated left. Here's the H1 tag or whatever it is that we were supposed to put in. Sorry about that. All right. And this is that Jumbotron. Here's a couple paragraphs, and here's some other stuff that you won't be asked to do. I took what was earlier in the footer and removed it. I moved it up to the top, and I just made this footer down here. All right, but I want to be able to show you the stuff that's in here. So let's start by, I'm going to bring this thing up, and I'm going to bring it up inside of code. All right, so open with code. Here it is. And let's start by looking again at the index page, and then we'll go right to the CSS, and then we'll go to the resume page, into the CSS, etc. So I started this. This is the same thing we had from the test where we came in here and we started it with the exclamation point. All right. Now, you may or may not have noticed, and I didn't tell you this, but I added 3 lines here. This is how you add Bootstrap. If all you did was add the stuff I told you for a Jumbotron, it probably didn't look the way that it should have. You've got to add this stuff that's in here. All right. So why didn't I tell you? Because I forgot. But it's no big thing. All right. Here is that image that's on every page. That's the logo. All right. And you can see in that image, I've got an image tag and I gave it an ID of logo. Well, if we look in here, where's logo? Somewhere did I use logo? I don't even know. Maybe I didn't. There it is. I told it to float left. That's all I did with the logo. That was it. All right. Then I moved this nav section, which had been in the footer. I moved it up to the top. All right. And if we look again at the styles, here's our nav. All right. I played around with the background color. It didn't like anything I did with that. So I just, I didn't even need this. But I said I wanted my unordered list to float to the left. I needed that so it would be right next to the logo. All right. And then I said that I wanted all of the list items, or the LIs, to be inline. Because remember, inline is the opposite of block. If I left that out, so if I take this line here and I comment out this line and I save this and I run my home page again, which is what I want here. All right. I get this. That's not what you were asked to do. So that is block. But if I come back again to where we were and I uncomment this, so it is inline, and I save, and I bring up my home page. Now that looks the way that I want it to look. All right. So that was how you were supposed to come in here and do the left loaded logo, the horizontal menu, and the bullets had already been removed, but I just set the list style type to none. All right. So that's everything for the header. You will be asked to do something similar to that when you take the test on Monday. All right. So next, you were supposed to create a footer on each page. The footer should have looked like this. So with my name, it would have been copyright symbol 2023 Jeff Scott. I think I added a hyphen. It doesn't matter. So we were supposed to use this at copy, semicolon. That's called an HTML character entity. That puts that copyright symbol right there. All right. You were supposed to center the copyright line and make it 60% of its regular size. Then you were supposed to give the footer a light colored solid background, and you were supposed to make all of the text in the footer black. Well, one thing I wanted to show you here, and I thought this gave me the chance to show you this, and that was I went in and typed in W3 schools, sticky footer. All right. And what they show in here is how to create a fixed footer W3 schools. You may remember this. I showed you this the other day. So under the try it yourself, what I did was I literally grabbed everything in here, and that became my footer. And then I manually went in and I changed the color because the text color was supposed to be black. And I just made the background color light blue. But other than that, I used everything. So position fixed means it's supposed to stay right there. Left 0 means move it all the way over to the left that you can. This, if this is my screen right here, imagine this whole thing is my screen. This up here is actually the origin. 0, 0 is up in the upper left-hand corner. But I said I wanted to go left 0, but I also wanted bottom 0, which meant push it down to the bottom. All right, that's what it'll be. I told it to take up 100% of the width. And again, I've already mentioned how I changed the background color to light blue, and I changed the text color to black. I had the text align center, and I did the font size of 60%. So if we take a look at that, again, each page, this is all I have in there for the footer. And again, you didn't need the hyphen, but I put it in anyway. So this is that character entity. That'll put the copyright symbol. There's the year. There's my name. And if I go to styles and I go down to the bottom where I'd like to put my footer, you see everything that's there. So again, this is the same thing I showed you from W3 schools, except theirs was red, theirs was white here. All right. And let's see. One thing I may or may not have done, I may have forgotten it. Okay. The text align was center, all that worked. But really what I could have also done in here is I could have come in and said footer, paragraph, oops, font size, I think we said it was 60%, like that. All right, so you could add that if you're so inclined. So I'm going to save this, go back. I'll just use my home page, open it up with live server, and there it is down there. Now it's hard to see at 60%, but you can see it is there. All right. And if I go to a different page, it's still there. All right. There's all sorts of ways that you can play with this. You may or may not have noticed that by default, when you do this, it's got the text here pushed way, way, way up to the top. It's butted right against this. Can I fix that? Well, of course I can. All right. As an example, one way that I can come in and fix that is I can go in here in my styling. And what's to stop me from saying margin, top, I don't know, 2 rem, for example, something like that. And then if I go back and look at it again, all right, kind of hard to tell, but you can move the stuff in there around. All right. And we're going to be getting into this stuff in a lot more depth and breadth of coverage in the coming weeks. So I've now shown you the header page and I've shown you the footer page. All right. Now on the home page, and I want to tell you why this is in here. All right. What happened is a couple of years ago, one of the people who was working in the IT AWD program went and rewrote all of the tests for the book that we were using. All right. And this stuff in here with Jumbotron, all right, is actually from a test that went through some stuff after chapter 7. That won't be on your test. There won't be a Jumbotron. But just so you can see the stuff that's in there, all right, let's go over it anyway, because we are eventually going to go over it. This is the Jumbotron right here. It's got a dark background. It has lighter text. All right, so let's see how indeed that was done. All right. Now, what you were told to do on the actual test page here is it said, go out to this. So let's go out to that and take a quick look. All right. And it's got Bootstrap, Jumbotron, and page header. And they explain what a Jumbotron is. They explain that you put it inside of a container in a class called Jumbotron, and you can put anything you want in it. So if I go to the try it yourself, all right, it's kind of hard to see, but this thing in gray here, that's the Jumbotron. So I can go in here. This is what it does by default. All right. You need again to add this stuff. That adds the Bootstrap stuff that you need for a Jumbotron. But if you didn't want it to say Bootstrap tutorial, I could change that and just say homepage. This is an example of using a Bootstrap Jumbotron. It is on my homepage. Save that and run it, and you can see how it changes. So that's basically what I did, was I grabbed what was there and I brought that in. So if we look here, all right, there's the Jumbotron. That's it. And actually, it's really right here. All right. Then I did go in with the CSS and I found in the Jumbotron, I said, give it a background color of navy, give it a paragraph color of white. And I think there's an H1 in there too. All right, let me double check. So I'm going to put in here also dot Jumbotron H1. All right, because previously when we looked at this, where it says this is my Jumbotron, that was in blue. Well, let's see after we put that in and we save this. Let's see then if it changes and it's now antique white. And you can see that it is. All right. So that was the next thing that you were supposed to do in there. All right. All right. Then next, we were said under that, put some garbage text. So I did. And we were supposed to add a tel link and a geo link. Either that won't be on your test, or it'll be so simple that you'll be able to do it like that. I'm moving right now to not having it on the test. I have to meet later today or early Monday morning with Mr. Gegelman, who's my counterpart at the St. Louis campus, and we're supposed to be giving the same test. So I'm going to be rewriting the test this weekend, sending him a copy, and hopefully getting his and Mr. Gudmisted's blessing. And that's where we're going to go. But if you did do all that stuff, you didn't have to. But if you did do all that stuff, well, you'll notice that now I can come in here and I can put in a phone number. So 314-286-3675, which is my phone number at Rankin. Click submit. It's not going anywhere. All right. But it did work. It took it okay. All right. And this other thing, this basically, if I click this, this is the latitude and the longitude of where I currently am. Now, what I don't want to do right now, what I do not want to do right now is I do not want to go over the code I put in. Why? Because all that code, this is a form which we haven't talked about yet, but we will when we get to around chapter 12. And this actually is JavaScript code. And we have not talked about any JavaScript yet. All right. So again, those will not be on your test. All right. So when I look in here then, and I come back to your test, that's everything on the home page. So let's go to the resume page next. Create an actual resume for yourself. I put mine in there. It does not have my real address, and it has my work phone number in it. Then it says, save that resume in PDF format, which is what I did. Then link to it. All right. And there was an example of what you can do to link to it. So let's look at that page. All right. So this is your resume page. There's not much on here. Again, just like we had before, move that over. We don't need any of this bootstrap stuff technically in here. We're not even using it. So I don't need that. But we've got our logo, we've got our nav bar, etc. And in here, this is all we have. An H1 tag that says resume. And then this is a hyperlink. And you'll notice that what I'm opening up in here is not a web page. What I am opening up in there is a PDF file. And I'm opening it up on a new page. So if I go back into here then, if I go back into here, there it is. And where it says, see a PDF copy. So if I click here, notice I'm going to close a bunch of this stuff here. Right next to this purple thing, it says resume right now. So when I click, that resume page is still open, but it now in a new window has actually opened up my resume. All right. You are going to be expected to do something like this. The advantage of you doing this is if you give someone a link to your electronic portfolio, all right, and they can open this up, you don't have to worry about sending them a resume. It's here already. All right, so that was the second page that was on here. For a second, like I said, let's just stop with the portfolio and the coursework, and let's go down to the contact page. All right. You were supposed to add a mail to link. I don't even know if I put that in. If I didn't, I'll add it momentarily. And then use the code that was out here. All right. And under the last name, add a field for email address. All I wanted to show you on here is what we're going to be moving towards shortly. And that is This is called an HTML form. I can make it bigger so you can see it. All right. There's all sorts of stuff that we can do with this. For instance, right now, if I click submit, it doesn't do anything. We can tell it to do something. We can make all these fields required. We can make sure that this goes in as an email address. So notice if I put in here, hello, and I click submit, it comes back and it says, hey, that's not a valid email. All right. So I'm going to show you why that happened. All right. So I'm going to go over, for now at least, I'm going to close my resume page and I'm going to close my home page. And now I'm going to go to my contact page. All right. This is what I asked you to copy over from online. You did have to go in and add this because that added that email address. You're going to learn how to create forms. You're going to learn how to format forms, all right, etc. You're going to learn how to do all this stuff. You're going to learn what all of this means. There will not be anything on the test you take on Monday regarding forms. Nothing. All right. I just wanted you to be able to see this. So if we look on here, I didn't put the mail to, we'll put that in a minute, but that was the code. All right. And we added the email address. So let's add the mail to link in here. Now, you may or may not remember me saying this, but if I go back to our textbook, and I go to the textbook and I go to, there it is. And I go in here, I think it was page either 234 or 235. There was an example on there of how to use this. Looks like it's the next page. So there it is. All right. So I'm going to literally grab that. I'll modify it to have put in my information. Okay. So let me open this and I'm going to say a href equal mail to, and now I want to put the address. So JP Scott at Rankin dot edu. All right. And, you know, me and email. And I'm just going to put, I'm going to grab that. And in here, right up above this, I'll put in a paragraph. And it'll say, please send me an email, just like that. All right, I just added that. You just saw me add that. So here's the mail to. That's where it's going. That's what's going to be underlined. All right. And if I save this and I run the contact page again, there I didn't format it, but you can see, so I'd have to center that text. But if I take my mouse and I put it over the word me, way in the bottom left-hand corner, way down here, it's hard for you to see, but it says there, mail to jpscott at rankin.edu. If I click that, it'll open up Outlook, where we'd be able to send an email. All right. There's even more that you can do with this. We'll talk about that when we get to that point in the class. So again, you'll notice it's not the same color. So again, I'd have to come back in here and do a text align center to put it right there, or I could have moved it down here or whatever. It really doesn't matter. All right. But pretty much, at least as far as I know, and I'm going to save that. All right. So that's everything with the contact page. So what's left is portfolio and coursework. And basically, I made them the same page. They have different images, but they're virtually the same page. So if I go to portfolio and I open that up, it looks like this. Let me make it 100%. So it looks like that. So what's different? Well, what you can see in here is I set it up to a 3-column format. I did no formatting on it, other than I said, basically I wanted every column that was in there to take up a third. All right. And you can see it did that. That's 33, 33, and 30. And what's left is out here. It has not been formatted. But when you take a look at what we were supposed to do in here on the test, take screenshots of 3 different websites, your choice. All right. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, and they're all just screenshots that I took. All right. Next, show these images one after another in a column or format. I took the middle column and gave it a different background color so you can see where each one begins and ends. All right. Then finally, under each image, add some garbage text in a contrasting color. So I just put, the name, the website number. All right. And again, that looks the same. All right. Whether I use the portfolio page or the coursework page. The only thing that changed on here were the numbers that are here and the pictures that were in the images. All right. But I believe at least, and this was my goal here. All right. My goal here was to go through this. And yes, let's just do this one more time. All right. I would say, yeah, you're going to do something with a logo on the test. That's all I'm going to tell you. All right. Will you have a horizontal menu? It depends on which version of the test we use. You might be making just a one-page website. You might be making a 3-page website. This is what I have to run by Mr. Gegelman. All right. You will have a footer, whether it's 1 page or 3 pages. It will be something like this. All right. There will be nothing in here with Jumbotron. I do not plan on having anything in here for a tel link. I do not plan on having anything in there with a geo link, but you should know how to put a mail to in there. All right. All right. Are you going to be asked to link to another document? The answer is yes. And I don't know if it'll be a PDF document or something else. We'll see when you take the test on Monday. You will not have to, will you do something like this? The answer is possibly. Again, if it's going to be a 3-page website, which is what I'm advocating, yes, you wouldn't do it twice, but you'd have something like this. What I'm looking at is a home page, a second page that's going to have something that are going to have images and text, sort of similar to what I just showed you. And then on the last page, it'll be all text. That's what I'm shooting for right now. I have to rewrite the test, rewrite the key, send it out to Mr. Gegelman, all right, and see if he agrees with it. If he doesn't, then I go back and rewrite it again, all right, and once he agrees with it, I have to also run it by Mr. Gudnested. That's the way we're doing things. So that will be done by Monday. Now, as far as your book goes here, let me jump back here. All right. There's literally nothing on your next test from chapter 1. For chapter 2, you will again be asked whether it is 1 page, 2 pages, or 3 pages. You will be asked to go out to the W3C site and validate each and every HTML page. You will be asked to go out to that jigsaw and validate your CSS. Your CSS, you will be asked to do all your CSS I believe at least, using an external file. All right. Now, how to use HTML to structure a page. By now, with all the stuff we've done in the Halloween exercises, etc., you should know how to make a header. You should know how to make a nav. You should know how to make a main section. In there, you should know how to put in, for example, a section and or an aside. All right. And remember, sometimes you look at the book and you may be more confused when you look at the book. If that's the case, go out to a site like W3 Schools and look for the stuff, any kind of problem, situations, or whatever that you have. All right, you will be asked to use CSS to format the elements on the web page. As far as the box model, you should understand the use of paragraphs, the use of margin. When I say paragraphs, really any content. It could be paragraph with text, it could be an image, whatever, but you should understand that that's surrounded by padding, which is surrounded by a border, which is surrounded by margin. So you should be able to go and add to anything on a web page padding, margin, border. All right. There'll probably be very little. I'm going to try to limit as best I can the amount of page layout that's in here. You may be asked on one of the pages to make a 2 or 3 column layout. All right. What I am planning on doing is writing the test, writing the key, and taking screenshots. Yours won't look like mine because what I'm doing and what you're doing, it won't be the same exact thing. But to give you an idea of what's going on. And then finally, for chapter 7, all right, as it says, you should know how to set up. If I tell you, like we did the other day, that on the bottom of your page, I want you to put a link in there that says go to top. You should be able to do something like that. You should be able to go in and create ordered lists, unordered lists. I'm not going to do a frigging thing with those definition lists, but you should know how to put in an ordered list or an unordered list. And if I show you an unordered list and it has, for example, instead of the disk, it has a square, you should know how to do that. You should know how to remove things from there. If you've got an ordered list and I say, if I show it that instead of numbers, that you use alphabetic letters, let's say, you should know how to do that. All right. And as far as navigation menus, the way that I plan on writing this test is it's going to be a single level menu. When we did the example yesterday for the Halloween Superstore, or whatever it's called, we had a 2-level menu. I don't plan on doing that. All right. So tomorrow will be lab. There will be no emails from me. There will be no taping from me. What I'm talking about with you right now, all right, this tape will be out there in a little bit. Now, before we do that, because I want to show you one last thing, and that is we've made some changes. We made some changes since we started this period. We made some changes to this website. I moved some stuff around. I added some stuff. So I'm going to come in here and do a file and do a save. Typically, if I go to another page, it'll allow me to, well, all right. But I was hoping it'd let me do a save all, but it's not. So now I'm going to close this. Why? Because I want to show you in here, and let me clear the screen. All right. But now I'm going to type in here, get status. And it says, hey, you got stuff in here that's changed. This stuff has not yet been staged. So I'm going to do a git add dot. Now it's been staged. How do I know that? When I go back and do another git status, it's now green. Red means that it's waiting. It's like in a holding area. Green means it's ready to be committed. So now I'm going to say git commit -m, and I'm just going to put changes added to chapters 1 to 7 retest. Again, we could put anything here. I'm going to hit enter. Boom. It says 3 files changed. All right. Now I'm going to again say git push -u origin master. Exact same way I did it before. And hit enter. It spins. Boom. It's already done. I go back into GitHub. Thought I had open, but maybe I don't. I'll just open up another one. It doesn't matter. All right. This was called Pretest. So there it is. Nope. It was just called Pretest. So it's in here someplace. There it is. Notice 39 minutes ago and now. So what was changed was our CSS, our contact page, and our resume page changed. You can, if you want to. I don't grade like this, but these are the files. So I can come in here and I can click and it'll show me there's everything. That's the whole thing. All right. The other thing is, if you look, it says changes changed a minute ago. If I come into here, typically it'll flag what's been changed. So you can see this. All right. Now, I've done everything I can think of doing for preparing you for this test. All right. So by 7 o'clock Monday morning, you will get an email from me that will have Hot 2, hands-on test number 2. I will go over the test between 8:05 and 8:20. It may not even take that long. You will then have the rest of the period to work on it. It will be due by midnight. All right. I usually on test days try to stay up till 10 o'clock. And when you get up at 4:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock is fairly late. All right. But I'll try to be up till 10. If you have questions after that, I will not be able to answer them that evening. All right. But people who have been late turning stuff in, you have to start turning it in on time. All right. So if you have questions when you're taking that test, all right, just get a hold of me. Finally, then on Tuesday, we will go into this chapter, how to use media queries for responsive design. All right, not a super long chapter, about 35 pages. We'll go through it. When we get done going through it, we will go through the chapter 8 for the Halloween Superstore. Finally, I just want to make sure people understand what is due this weekend. All right, the chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7 written tests are due. The chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7 shape up examples that you now are doing on your own, those are due. And the chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7 Halloween Superstore examples are due that we did in class. As long as you've turned in something by Sunday night, you will be marked present. That's how it works. If you turn in absolutely nothing, all right, you will be marked absent. Again, if you have any questions, jpscott@rankin.edu. It's all I can think of telling you for right now. All right. I hope you all have a nice weekend. I will talk to you Monday morning. Thanks for listening.